Alright, so it looks like I am live now. So what we're going to do, everyone, I'm using some new tools today, so let me get situated with the tools. Okay, looks like my tools are set. Code is visible, things have popped up. So let's get to it, as I like to say. Let me get this out of here. And okay, so first thing I want to say is I want to thank you guys for checking out the live stream. I'm clearly going to promote my content, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to promote my course that's available now on Udemy. I have two courses. I have a free intro to Vue JS with Ionic framework and CRUD, and I think I'm going to take off my headphones, so I don't think I need them. And then the next thing that I have is I have my Ionic Vue class, which is on sale right now for $11.99, so please definitely check that out. And then I also have a bunch of content over here on Gumroad. I'll include both of the links. Let me just put them in the chat right now so that they'll be here for historical purposes, since I suspect most people watching this will not be watching it live. So there's the Gumroad content, and there's the course. The course is only on sale for the rest of the weekend. Only on sale for rest of weekend. So let's put that out there. Now let's get to what we're here for. So the objective that we're trying to do here is to utilize the community plugin for SQLite. And let me get the view open. Let's try to get some of these pages open without flashing all over the place. So there's my live stream view. There's my, okay. So you all are aware of the the Capacitor community, and inside Capacitor community, there is a SQLite plugin, and this is the one that we are going to try to use. Hold on a second. Okay, this is the Capacitor SQLite plugin that we're using, this community plugin. As usual, since I'm trying to save time, I have already loaded the plugin in. I don't want y'all to sit here and watch me do that. So if we take a look at package JSON, also don't worry, I will upload all of the source code. You can see that I've loaded in the Capacitor community SQLite plugin. And by default, since this is a Capacitor application, it is also loaded. Let me show you what I've done already. So I've already run npm install Capacitor community SQLite to get it done. I've run Ionic cap sync iOS to synchronize everything over, and then I'm using the kind of live let me get back here. I'm using this LiveReload command, and so now you can see I have it running over here in the browser. Like I said, I did a bunch of this ahead of time because I want to spend about 45 minutes to an hour just on the code and not on a bunch of setup. So to show you that we have the LiveReload working properly, hold on, I need to get like a production assistant so I don't need to keep bouncing my head over there. We can now go into our source code. Let's click over to our source code, go to our home page. Like I said, I have LiveReload running, so what I've done down here in my terminal, you can see in the first setting here, this is the one I used to kind of run. See here, I installed the SQLite plugin. I then ran capsync iOS, and so it set up Capacitor config, it copied the plugins, it updated the native dependencies with pod install, and then what I like to do is open up a completely separate terminal, and this is where I've run, where did I just say, where do we got it? This Ionic cap run iOS LiveReload external, so then my app is running here. And now since we have LiveReload, at this point I don't plan on loading any more plugins or anything else. I'm just going to be doing coding inside of JavaScript here. I should be able to get the benefits of LiveReload. So if I just change this to SQLite and save, you can see we are getting our LiveReload engaged here. So we've updated the page. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do to keep this simple since, like I said, I'm on a clock, I'm trying to keep this within an hour, is that we're going to try to do as much work as we can right here in just this one component, so that we don't have to spend a lot of time hopping back and forth. And then maybe a separate video that I'll show you how you can kind of break everything up. But the idea here really is to just give you the concepts, and then you to build on the concepts to, you know, make something that you find way more engaging. So let's start with getting SQLite set up. So as I said, I did a lot of pre-work to kind of save you guys some time. But the first thing we need to do clearly is we need to get our import set up. So let's put some comments in here. So, and also the chat is open. There is a slight delay, so if you have some questions, feel free to just hop in and leave a question. So we're going to say SQLite imports. And so here's where we want to import all the SQLite related stuff. And we're going to start off with our plug. Well, let's just kind of bring them all in at once and then talk through them. So we need these imports. We need capacitor core. We need capacitor core. We're going to use a SQLite connection as we get everything all set up. And then clearly we need the actual plugin. So that's what these imports are all set up for. I think what we're going to do is, for now, let's just clear some space out. We're going to use the I think it's Ion View, what is it called? Ion View did load, or Ion, oh, I forgot, these are all hooks now. So, because I'm in React. Use Ion View will enter, right? So, since we know that Ionic loads the components into memory and they basically just stay there, we can utilize this hook to set up our database. And so that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's format this. So inside of here, we're going to do two things. We're going to get plugin, and then we're going to set up database. Okay, and so now that we have that going, let's get the plugin. And so to get the plugin, the first thing we need to do is create a SQLite connection. And so let's create our SQLite connection, and we have our plugin here. We're going to create a plugin. This will create the new SQLite connection, and then from that connection, we will actually open up our database. So we have our connection. And then here we are going to do our await. So let's put an async around here. We have our database. And then for now, just to make sure that everything is working, we're just going to since we're running in an application, a console log is going to help us. We're just going to alert. alert. And then we will do a JSON stringify. And then we'll take our db.null.to and see if that gives us what we're looking for. I think now, because I did an ion view will enter, and as you can see, the view's already entered, this isn't going to work because it's going to force me to reload. So let's see if let's do this in a useEffects instead. useEffect. You cannot do async. It's supposed to be. Why isn't it throwing an error? Show fixes. useEffects, put async functions aside. So let's kind of clean this up a little bit. So what we're going to do is we are going to take this out, and we're going to put our own function here. Const init db async and then let's move all of this stuff to set up our database inside, and then let's call initdb. And see if we get something better. is it not calling my initDB? Let's set this. And then let's run this guy. All right, my live reload's not doing the things that I want it to do. Here's my database. Let's do this. Are my errors gone? And my errors are gone. My live reload is working. Let's open up Xcode and kind of fire this guy up again. Alright, so it looks like we have something working. We have our database. So we've created our connection. And then now, after we've created our connection, let's see if we can actually open our database. Let's do this. Let's make sure we wrap this with a try catch. So if we get any errors, we know we're getting some errors. So let's do a try. I'm about to change my thoughts on keeping everything embedded in here. Try, catch, E, and then window.alert. And then we're going to do the exact same thing we did here. Where's our JSON? Let's do this. JSON.stringify. Hold on, let me see what we got going in here. So let's do our JSON stringify. We'll take the error, comment null, comment 2. So what we're trying to do here, this is getting kind of crowded, is we've created our async function to initialize the database. Let's take this out of my useEffects. Let's just put it up here at the top. And then what we're going to do is inside my useEffects, when we start up, we're going to try to initialize the database. Why is it saying this? Database assigned a value, it's never used. Async, let me return my database if we're successful. So we get our database back from there, and then if we get an error, we're going to throw our error on an alert, and then we're going to return a null. So that we know there's a problem. If everything worked fine, we're going to come in here, we're going to be initialized, and here we're going to have our database. And so let's do it in here. JSON stringify our database, comment null, comment 2. All right, so now we have our database coming back. We'll say db.any, and we got to click our OK to get that guy to run properly. I don't understand why it's not reloading every time I initialize. Actually, maybe I'm making this more complicated than it needs to be. Let's just take out. I don't think I really need that. Okay. So we're going to start, we're going to come in, we're going to initialize the database. If we get a result, then we go there. Let's, my live reload isn't working as lively as I would like it to work. Let me try again to see if I can get it back on track. Let's run our simulator again. Our application started up. It's saying it initialized our database. Everything got initialized, everything got initialized. But why I'm returning, oh, I'm console logging it, I'm not writing it out. That's what's happening. So, okay, let's alert. Let's draw an alert with this so we can see it. Window.alert. Well, hold on. let's run this again. All right, so it looks like we got our database initialized and we're good. Okay, so now that our database is initialized, we have our DB initialize function up here. So let's initialize database. The other thing that we want to do is a cool utility that you get with the this community SQLite plugin is the ability to kind of preload your database with some JSON. I set up that JSON file ahead of time. So here's this import JSON file that we're going to use. And what we're going to do is I have my database name, which is already set to testDB. The version, there's no encryption, mode is full. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create this table called contacts. This is the schema for it. We're going to set up the schema. We're going to set up an index. And then we're going to insert these values into our database. And we're going to do that at initialization. And so let's kind of step through how we're going to do that. Once again, I'm keeping this all simple, doing everything inside of my home component. Maybe later we can kind of break it out. So let's say const initial, let's say load JSON. Okay. And so in here, we want to load this, we want to utilize this file here and import all this content. And so the first thing we need to actually do is get the data. So let's come down here and this is the JSON file with data. Come on, let me see if we got somebody saying something. All right, no, we're good. All right, so we have our initial JSON file with data. And let's import this guy. So we're going to call this import. And hold on. Import JSON data. From, let's see what we, there's our import JSON file, and now we have the JSON data. And so this is the file that we need, and the way the import works is that we do, where's our SQL? I got to get this SQLite. I need access to that SQLite object. And how am I going to get access to that SQLite object? I don't want to make a new connection because we already have one. I think that I can just do this. Let's take it out and bring it up top here and make it a constant. And save and see if we get everything working. All right, so everything still works. We have our connection set up here. And so now I can use my SQLite inside of here. And so it's mSQLite dot. And so here's all the functions, import from JSON, and then we have this data that we want to import, which is JSON data here. And we need to make sure we convert it because it's an object right now, so we need to kind of convert it back into a string. So we're going to do JSON stringify. I'm going to take this data, convert it to a string. And I believe this guy's asynchronous, so we got to do an await. And then we're just going to return the results. Set this to async. And let's put a little header up here since we got everything shoved into one file. Use to load the JSON into the database. Okay. It's complaining because we're not using load JSON. So what we want to do is we want to take load JSON and we want to move it down into our initialized database. So we're going to initialize the database, and then it's going to return the database, and then we're alerting that it was initialized, but then after the database is initialized, and only if it was initialized successfully, then we want to load the JSON, which has no parameters passed to it, and we can return this. I probably can clean this up and get it to use async await, but for now, let's just go with this. And so now, since it's going to return something over there, we need to say then, and then we're going to get the results back from the JSON load. So let's name it that, JSON load results. And we're just going to call it any, and then let's window alert that too. I think right now I'm trying to minimize the Ionic specific stuff here because I want folks to know that you can utilize Capacitor without using Ionic. So right now let's just keep it simple with the window alert, but then we'll go back in later and we'll actually clean up the UI to make it look better. So we need to JSON stringify this stuff before we display it. So let's put window alert, JSON stringify, and then the results. And so let's run this and see if this guy will work. I made a bunch of changes. My live reload is just not really being happy. All right, let me try and run this again. All right, so now we got what we were looking for. Also, if we can, let me see if I can zoom this in a bit so you guys can take a look at this, what's going on down here. So if you, I'm not exactly a Xcode pro. I don't know how to zoom this in. Let me see. No, but if you can see as it's loading, it's giving me back the changes that were made to the database, and that's the alert I'm getting here. So it's saying 3 changes were made to the database. And if we go back to our import JSON, you can see the 3 changes were that it added these records. We can show that worked by, we can add another guy. So let's add another one to our database, and let's call this new guy. And his name is new. Last name is guy. And then let's save that. And then if we, let's click OK here. If we go back to our home TS, and let's see if I can get this guy to run again. Let's run our Xcode app again. So this database running. Oh, message period. What did I do wrong in my JSON data? Let's go back. Where's my JSON file? Oh, the unique constraint failed because I didn't change this ID. So let me fix this ID. Let's go back to my home. Let's save. Okay. Okay. Now it worked that time. You see we got the 4 changes that were made to the database. So now our database is initialized. So that's the first part. Now the next part is, can we actually get the data out of the database? So when we first get started, database is loaded. We get the results, so we know that we got some data loaded in effectively. And then the last thing is we need to actually implement a query to get some data back. So let's do that now. One more. Then we're going to hang on the end here. I think after we get this working, I'm going to go back in here and actually switch all this code to use async, to use async and await, because I can't swallow all these thens. So here we need to actually do a query to get all of our data. So let's do this. Query to get database data. All right. So the query to get database data. First of all, we're going to need to open our database. And do I have my database? My database is there. My database is there. Looks like I'm going to need to set my database locally, which I haven't done. So let's go up here. And let's put our database. Let's try this. I should be able to do a const. let's import our database, and then let's do this. So after we get our database here, let's do a set database DB. So now we have our database set in our state, and then what we're gonna, now I have access to my database. So now when I get down here and I want to actually do a query, I should be able to get my database here. Why is this doing this? Database.open. So we're going to need to open our data. Why can't it? Oh, database. So we need to open our database. Let's clean this up a bit. And so the idea is we're going to open up our database, and then we're going to execute. Then we're going to execute a query against our database to get back the guys that we just loaded in. And it's straight up SQL, right? So our database is open, and then after our database is open, we want to say database dot query. Let's see if I can assign a type to this guy to get us a SQL connection. Let's see if I can get this. Let's see. What do we have here? SQLite DB connection. SQLite. Looks like I can't. So let's get back down here and do our query. So execute a query, ERY, and then it's going to be straightforward SQL, right? We want to do select, SELECT, select star from contacts. And then let's put our semicolon on the end there. This is async. So we're going to return the results from that query, and then this will be the query results. And then what we're going to do is, let's do this, set query results to query results. I'm gonna use query results above as a state variable, so I'm gonna rename this so we don't run into any problems. Actually, let me just go up here and set this now. So here's my query results. So call it, and let's call this query results, and this set query ULTS. Okay. And then we will come back down here and clean this up. We're just going to call this results. And then we're going to set query results with results. And this is complaining. All right, we'll give it to you. All right. Click our OK there, click our OK there. Undefined. Okay there, okay there. What's my undefined? These are all of the reloads that have been queued up. Okay. Set query results. So we should get some results here. And then what we want to do is we want to kind of take these results that we have right now, and we're going to just render them in our UI and see what we got. So we can do that, I believe, with... Should be able to do this. JSON dot... You guys notice I like JSON string defy. Then kind of null to wrap. Actually, this should be query results. Let's put this in a pre. Move this all over. This here, there, there. and see what we get. And let's fire this up again. So let's take out a couple of these alerts because we know things are working. So we can comment this out, and we will comment out the initialized. And let's see what we got. Let's go back here and run our Xcode. Okay, we're getting a lot of looping because this database dependency, because every time the database changes, it's triggering this. So let's comment this out for now. And query failed in selection, prepare, database not opened. I opened my database right there. All right, let's do this. Okay, what's going on? Initialize database, load JSON. I set my database. Database, load JSON, query. All right, let's try this again. I think I'm missing a step, but we'll figure it out. Null is an object when querying. Why is it not getting my data? Set DB. Hold on, let me take a look at the doc and see what am I not doing right. So after the import, I need to open my database. Connection. So this, I have my database here. I set my database. I think it's a like timing thing that's going on here. So I get my database back from initdb. How about we do this? How about we not set it here? Let's see if I set it a little bit later, if that will address my problem. Oh, that's interesting. Why did it work now? So you're seeing my results. All right, let me see what's going on. Let's go back in and let's just run this all over again. Let's stop it completely and let's run it, because I thought that code was right. So let's run it again, see what we got. Yeah, this is definitely what I call a, because the way set state works, you can't always anticipate exactly when the set state is going to run. And so my concern is that my database is still null when it's trying to call a set state. So let's do this. We have our database here. Actually, we're not even going to use a state variable here. What we're going to do is we're going to take this out, and then we're going to manage it all inside of my async here. So we're going to say const database equals null. Actually, let's just say let database. So we have a database, and then we're down here. As soon as we get the database, we'll return it, but we'll also say database equal to DB. All right, and now it's complaining because database is assigned a value and it's never used. But what we're going to do is we're going to come down here, and can't find name database. Where did I put it? Oh, sorry, I didn't want database in there. I want database down here inside of my useEffects. So we have database inside of my useEffects. We will assign the database when we come back here. Let database, variable database simplicity types any, blah, 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 blah. Let's just set database to any, so everybody's happy. So now after I initialize my database and I get my database back, I've set it, I have my load JSON here, so my database should be accessible at this point. So now let's run everything. Hold on. All right, data. Okay, how is this all working? Initialized database gets called. Async. We await. We're done. We return a database. Otherwise, if there's an error, we throw. Here we call initialized database. We come in. If that, after we've loaded all the data, why is it not happening consistently? We query to get the database. Then now that we have the database, then we query, then we get results. All right, let's go back in here and run everything all over again. Let's stop this completely and run it. And we're querying and we're getting our database. So everything is set. That's what we want. Let's see if we can clean up this UI a bit. I really don't like the fact that I have everything jammed in here, but like I said, for now, we'll do it. And maybe if we have some time, how long have we been going? We've been going for, let's see, 6:30. We've been going for about 40 minutes. Let me make sure I comment this. So this is open the database, and then this is query to get all of the contacts from database. Assign database for use later. Load the default contacts. Query to get database data. Sorry, open database. Then query to get all the contacts from database. And then we set the query results. And then we're rendering the query results. Let's see if we can clean this up a bit. I think it is query results dot map. And then I think it's complaining now because it wants to see something. So this is going to be a contact. Set type any, and then we will, let's return ion item, and then inside of that ion item, let's do ion label, and then inside those, come on. We didn't use this. Let's use an ion item, ion label. We didn't use. Well, we already have an item ion label. So now what do we got? Query results map needs to return a value. So we return that. And then in here, let's do a contact dot email, I believe is valid. Type error, something, what is not a function? Query results, map, contact, return. That should be right. Let me see, I can't see that error. Let's go to my Xcode. Undefined is, oh. Let's comment this out again. Oh, it's query result values. Query result dot values. Let's do it like that. And let's uncomment everything. Save. All right, so we're getting our emails down there, but now that we got it, let's get the emails and let's get first name, last name. See if we can get all that in there. contact first RFIR first name contact. Let's do last. We can put these on the same line. Last name. Let's see if I can div these guys to clean them up for now. So we have our first name, last name, and let's get that out of there. Then we'll just do this. First name, last name, ID. So now we get the results. We can get rid of that to get our UI a lot cleaner. And so now we have the list of items that came back from the SQLite database. So now that we have the list of items that came back from the SQLite database, let's see if we can actually kind of clean up some of this chaos that we have here, since we've got it working. So let's come out here and let's create a new file called data service.ts, and let's move a bunch of this stuff that we use to get everything going, and let's kind of clean up this function. So we know we can pull load JSON out because we don't need load JSON here. So let's put load JSON in here, and let's get let's go back to home. We don't need this, so we're going to take this out and we're going to put it over here. And where is the import JSON now? So that's where we get our import JSON. We need it needs the SQLite. So since we're really going to pull all of this SQLite stuff out, we can take our SQLite imports from here and we can move it over to our data service. So let's do that. And we have everything here in our data service. Let's go back to our home. Let's pull in our plugins, and let's pull this out. Our data service. Okay. So now we have our load JSON. We don't need export. We have capacitor. Let's go back to our home, see what's left over here. So this whole initialize database function, we're going to take out and put it into our service. So let's take this out. Let's go over to our service. Let's add that. And then let's also take out what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of just embed this load JSON inside of initialize DB. So let's take that function out. Let's go here. Await initialize DB. We're not going to return the database yet here. We're going to go right here and we're going to say await our load JSON to let that run successfully, and then we'll return the database. So we can come back here to home. So now we have our database that comes back from initialized database. And then let's take this out. And we're going to create a function called query all contacts. And that's just going to return its result. And then what we'll do is we'll go into our data service and we'll add another function, const query all contacts, and we'll add our function to query everything. What we can do here also is we can query all contacts. Let's set our database to be a local constant. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take this and we're going to take it out, and we're going to come up here at the top and we're going to say const db we're just going to say let our database be any. Who's it complaining about? DB is fine. We're going to rename this to database. And then in initialize DB, we are going to do this. Database. Oh, I spelled it wrong above. So let's go up here. That's our database. So now we're going to set our database. We're going to return our database. I don't think I need to return it, but let's just to stay consistent. Let's do that. Let's set our async. So we have our query all contacts. And now let's export. So let's do this. I think let's export some stuff. Export. We're going to export our query all contacts. Let's contacts. And we're going to export our initDB. Because I think those are the only two we're going to need back at home. So let's go back up here. And let's import the function. So let's import from data service, and then from import from data service we want to import initDB, and what's our other function we want? Query all contacts. All right, we don't need to assign this database. So we don't need this. All we need to do is initialize the database, and if the database initializes, then query all contacts, as you can see, and then it works. We can take this out of here. And now we've like cleaned up our UI completely, right? So we've basically moved all of the setup stuff out of home. We still have it inside of our useEffects, but we've encapsulated it all over here inside of our data service, right? So let's kind of put some comments. Load from JSON file, initial content. Here we initialize the database, and then we query all contacts from the database. So we have a basic flow set up here. Let's do one more thing quickly. How long we've been going? 6:30. Not an hour yet. So let's add another query to get a specific item. So let's say export const get contact by ID. Okay. And we should be able to have a pretty straightforward query to get that content. Let's see what we got. Let's see. Hold on, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you all that I am a SQL pro, so I'm going to have to actually look up how to actually do this get by ID query. So be patient with me. Where is that documentation? Okay. This is it. Let's see. Data, import data, data service. Doesn't look like. It should just be a select where ID. So let's give that a try. Let's maybe run, delete, maybe query. So I know, let's do this. So we should be able to database, query, select from contacts, where ID equal to, we're going to pass the parameter in, and then I should be able to, on the end here, pass in the ID that I'm looking for. And that should be coming in contact ID, any, and then we need to convert this guy to a string because it's a number. So we're gonna cheat. I think it's, is it parse? No, let's just, I'm gonna be lazy now. Contact ID plus, we'll convert it to a string. All right, so then we want this guy to return a WAID, await. I can't find contact ID. Sorry, async. Let's find C, and then this returns AW. All right, so let's format this, read through what we're doing. So what should happen is when you pass an ID, it should execute a query based on the user's ID. We're passing the contact ID, and it should return us the result. Let's come back to home, and let's do this. Get contact by ID. And then let's go down here, and what we want to do is not be too crazy. Say on, click. And then on click, we will call get by ID. And then get by ID, and then we will pass in the ID. Also, we probably need to add a key on here. And the key will be contact.id. So React can stop complaining, and then this is our function get by ID, which will also pass in the contact ID. And then let's go up here and add that function. Const get by ID. And then let's call our get contact by ID with contact ID. This is a sync. So AWAIT const C, and then let's set that async. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say set current contact C, and then we can go up here, and now we will actually create another one of these. Current contact, and then set current contact. I apologize for the background noise. Someone's running a bunch of water, and when you run the water, you kind of get that. So we set our current contact, and let's go down here. Where are we? Where are we? So what we're going to do is we just want to show the current contact that we clicked on. So if I copy, set current contact, and then let's put it at the top of the list so we don't lose it. So let's go up here at the top and do div. Let's put some padding here. And then we're going to take this same padding and put down here. And then we're going to say actually current contact, and we'll kind of, actually we'll do basically what we did here. Let's just cut this out, put this here, and we'll say current contact. Then let's just uncomment this. So there's no current contact now. I select the you guy, Wiley, and so as I'm clicking it, it's executing the query and getting the appropriate contact. Let's do this. Let's say current contact dot values 0. All right, that's a little bit better. So now it's kind of straight up, and I think we can actually just borrow what we got going on down here, and let's just take this ion item, put it up here, and go like this. Right, and let's remove that. So as I select a different guy, they're added up there. Let's ion card, so it kind of stands out a little bit more. Ion card content. And then we got to get this guy imported. Import ion card. All right, what's the? All right, there we go. But we don't want to show this card if we don't have a contact. So let's take this and say and put it here. Come on. Build fill. Did I not wrap it? Div card. That should be right. Card. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So now if I click on new guy, my new guy gets added up top. Bill Brown. Everybody gets added appropriately based on which one is clicked. And I think, let me get this out of here because that's adding a little bit too much padding. Okay. So, and then we could go in here. Now I'm kind of getting carried away, but we can say H1 current contact. Let's clean that up. The ion. Let's add this up here. Header, and then let's go all in. Ion card title. And add that too, and then let's wrap this guy with the card title. Where we go. Down here, ion card title. And then ion card title. Okay, format. And if I click, so there's my current contact, Bill, that big, let's do, that card title's huge. I think I can deal with the subtitle. Ion card, I think it's subtitle. Yeah, let's go with this ion card subtitle. Title's a little too much. So back down here. Okay. Let's. All right. So we have gone a little bit over an hour, and let's talk about what we've covered so far. Actually, I'm going to do one more thing, which is this. So it's kind of cool that you have the utilities or kind of plugins that you get with Visual Studio Code. So let's kind of do a little bit more refactoring. So we refactor the data service out. So let's kind of refactor some of these components out. So I can just select all this and I can say, where is it? Refactor. Put default in. No, that's not what I want. There's a way. Why can't I move this component out? Final reference, rename, change all, format document, format select, refactor. I thought I'd be able to extract this out as a separate function somehow. Let me see if I can do it down here. Nope. It's my card content. Let's see if I can do this. Should be able to get this out. No? Why is it not letting me refactor this? Source actions at all? No? So I'll just do it the old-fashioned way. So let's go down here and say const CurrentContact. All right. Hold on. I'm just trying to refactor this out to a separate component, but I'm getting stuck on the TypeScript as usual. Actually, no, it doesn't belong here. What we want to do is we want to put this over here. So this is a React function component, and it has a type. Let's just be lazy. It has a type of any, and one of the things it's getting is a current contact. Okay. So I've exported this. So let's see if it works. All right. So it is not working. Why is this not working? So let's see. Current contact gets past the current because it's called contact. So let's go there. So I've kind of cleaned this up and put into a separate component. But let's do a little bit better than this because we don't want to keep kind of doing this work, right? So let's do this. No, yeah, actually, let's leave it. we'll leave it for now. That's something you can do. You might want to refactor that out. Let's kind of export one other component to kind of clean up my home page. We want to export this thing here. So let's take this out. Actually, first let's just copy this current contact. So we're going to copy our current contact, create a new component with that, and we'll say ContactList, and it gets passed a parameter called contacts. And what we're going to do here is we're going to render this. So we're going to just take all this out of here, and we're going to come down here into our contacts list, and we're going to place all this. And this is going to be contacts. And so now we have our contacts list. So let's go up here and add our contacts list. So back up here, contacts list, which gets contacts, which I believe is query results. It's passed in. Okay, let's see. Contacts list. Did you mean? Yes, contact list. Let's see if we get it right. All right, we got it. All right, so it doesn't have this get by ID. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add another parameter to our contacts. And it's going to be called contact clicked. And then what we're going to do is when contacts clicked, we're just going to call it info. So let's take this out, and what we'll do is we'll come back up here. Where's our contacts? And so we're going to create our contact clicked. And when our contacts clicked, we are going to call get by ID. So we should be able to, I think I can do this. The contact clicked equals get by ID. And then what we'll do is in our contact clicked, we'll come down here, and that is our new function. And on contact clicked, we will just do this. So when you click the contact, it will call the function that got passed in, and that should send up the ID. Then it will call this get by ID function with the ID that got passed in, and that should set the contact. Right, so let's see if everything worked. Let's format everything, clean it up. So, new guy, Bill Brown. So, looks like everything moved itself up the way it's supposed to. Things were refactored properly. So, as you can see now, we have a nice clean UI. We have our header, we have our content, we have our current contact component, and we have our list. We're handling events in the list. And then let's do the last thing, which is to kind of refactor these components out. So what I was trying to do before is I can actually select these components, and then I can say refactor, move to new file. And so it created this new current contacts file, and then I can take this other one down here, and I can say the same thing. Refactor, move to new file. So now our home is extremely clean. We've moved our components out. Actually, let's actually put these guys where they belong. So let's create, there's our components directory. Let's move our two components that we just created into the components directory. Move. Components. All right, what's going on? All right, what is not right? All right, let's delete them, and let's go back down here and just say import. Okay, so now we've imported everything. We've imported our components. What isn't it like? Reference error contact list. All right, let's try and recompile. Okay, so we have everything running. We click, we get our current contact. Everything's good. And I think since we have now been going for about an hour 15, now is probably a good time to stop. So just to kind of review what we covered, we first of all created a database. We have all of our database functionality inside this data service. So let's kind of go to the data service. If you look inside of my data service, you can see we have a couple of functions here. We have our initDB function, which creates the connection to a SQLite database. We're not using encryption. We have our database object. We store our database object as kind of it's a global variable to this service. We then load the JSON. So we created this JSON object that we can now pass in to this function to preload the database, which is how we're getting this content added here. And so let me go back to my data service. And so we create the connection, and then we load the database, and then we return the database back to the caller. If we go back to the caller home, at startup, that's what it does. It initializes the database, and then here we query all the contacts so that we can get them for the list. And so if I take a look at, go back to our data service, and we look at query all contacts, we use a database that we have saved, we open it, and then we just do a normal SQLite query to get all the contacts, and we return the value. Value comes back to the home page. The home page, and it's a promise, when it's done, it passes those results, and then we call this set query results, which is a local state variable. So now we have the values in query results. And if you go down to the list, I created this component called ContactList, and ContactList takes two variables. It has two properties. It has the list of contacts you want to display, and then it has a handler for when you actually click on a contact. Let's talk about the handler first. The handler is called getById. It's a local function. You pass in the contact ID, and then once again, it calls our data service, and our data service uses the database. It executes a query by ID and gets the current user, current contact, and passes it back. So if we go back home, so now let's take a look inside of a contact list. Contact list was a component I kind of refactored. And if you look at it, all it does is it takes in a list of contacts, it loops through them and renders them. We've identified that when you click on an item that we call this contact click function, which passes in the ID of the contact, and that's how we're able to kind of, as we click through these, see a specific contact. And then the last component that we have here is if we go back home, you can see here we have this current contact, and that's just kind of this simple component that just renders the current contact that we're working with. And that also takes a current contact as a property that gets passed in. When we click a contact, you can see here we query the contact and we set the current contact value. When the current contact value is set, it calls this component to actually render it. It only renders it if it actually finds a value. And so that's how you get this kind of behavior where you click on it. So what haven't I done? I haven't allowed you to add new items, and I haven't allowed you to delete items, and I haven't showed you this working on Android. So there's a couple of different things you need to do to get this on Android. So what I'll do is in the next video, I will run this whole thing, but I'll run it in Android. So I'll show you how to get Android working, and then I will show you how to delete an item, and I will show you how to add an item. Thanks for watching the stream. If you have any questions, leave the comments below. I will upload the source code, or I'll provide a link to get access to the source code. And, for the people who stop by to watch it live, I appreciate you. And the people who are watching this later, I'm glad you checked it out, and hopefully you can enjoy the content. Take care, and bye.